Sorry I've been gone so long, but also sorry not sorry because I took a break, and a break is an important thing. What I did over that break is very exciting, and that is I kind of reset my embouchure because I wanted to find out what is it like when you are first studying seriously. Obviously, I did that once, but it's been some, I don't know, let's say 20 plus years since I experienced it. And when I was experiencing it, I was just kind of struggling to get by. And I would love for somebody to have told me, okay, look, this is what's important. This is what you need to do, and make sure you do. I also wanted to challenge some of my assumptions as a teacher. Am I right when I tell people that they need to practice every day, or that they need to practice a certain amount? Is it 2 hours? Is it 3 hours? Is it 1 hour? Is it less than that or more? Uh, do you do everything every day, or do you do different things every day? And I'm on a trumpet teachers forum on Facebook that I guess it's a group now, but that talks about this stuff a lot, and I see a lot of different opinions, and I wanted to see what I kind of feel those out, right? Because I think part of me understands that everybody's right to a certain degree. In other words, that what works for one person obviously works, but it might not apply to somebody else. And that works both ways, right? That not every teacher is for every person, and not every method is for every person. But what I've also found is that in my career, some of the stuff that absolutely did not work for me early on now seems very important. And so what does that mean? So I want to explore that with you today as I warm up. I haven't warmed up yet. I haven't played a single note. I really need to drink a lot more water. This is one of the things that I've learned. This may be more of an old age thing, but anyway, if you have questions along the way, let me pull up the chat. No, that's not the chat. That's the chat. Let me pull up the chat. So if you have questions, please let me know. And let's see, other news. I've been working on the channel, and so if people ask about that, that may come up, and I can show you what I've been doing. I'm really just putting chapters into all the warm-up videos first, and then I am going to go back through and try to do some of that with the more important ones of these videos. And I'm also going to download and re-upload things so that they show up in the videos tab. That should be a fairly easy process, but we'll see how easy that really is. Anyway, so okay, let's warm up a little bit. I've been working with the embouchure, which is Tom Hooton's device. I have one of the first run of the official version. I also have one of the prototypes, but one of my students has it. And I hear that there's an update coming that just changes one little part to make it flatter, and I'll show you what that is. So here's the embouchure. And it works in a bunch of different ways, but basically you've got this little tube on the top that has a spring, and you're going to use that to set your aperture and your sort of musculature for your embouchure. But this side works kind of like a peat, where you put it inside and you try to pull out very slightly and resist that with your chops, and that gives you a setup for when you turn it around, you're already using those muscles. And it ties that to the blow, which is a little bit, I don't think I have mine here. No, not that I can see. If you've watched previous videos long time ago now, there was a device called the Wind O that was also endorsed by Tom Hooton, and he said that was the first one that brought corners to airflow together, right? And so this does that also. So I've been starting with this. I'm also using a mirror, and this mirror is going to tell me if, let's get it set up in a good spot here. This mirror is going to tell me if I'm setting up in the center. Maybe I should put it towards you guys. I'm not sure that it will. How about right here? Will it work if it's just on my stand? Kind of. Like that, right? And you can sort of see that it's in the middle. I guess if I could use the computer camera if it was right in front of me, but anyway. And we're going to journal, and I want to show you a couple of things. Oh, maybe we can use the iPhone camera. Let's see if this works out. Oh, that's my calendar. Don't look at that. Let's see what we can do. All right. Put that away. That's just us right now. Okay, so I know you'll still be able to see some stuff back there. We don't need any of this stuff. Is it actually in the first one? Oh, it is. Look at that, our phone camera. And so let me bring you over to here. And sorry about all this. But so you can see my journal here. Turn on a light for you. You can see my journal. And this is the long form journal. But, I'll get my good pencils out of the way here. I've been working on a short form, if you can see that. And why am I showing you this? Well, because a lot of people struggle, there we go, to be able to do, let's see, pause that and go back to me. A lot of people struggle to actually do a good warm-up every day or to journal well enough. And so I thought, well, what if I made so that one sheet of paper back and front had a whole week plus a review on it, right? That'd be pretty handy. It would save paper, and it would reflect what a lot of people are doing in their journals anyway, as my students, which is kind of just ticking off boxes, saying like, yes, I warmed up. This is the warm up I did. Yeah, I worked on my high range. Yes, I did scales. This is the scale that I practiced that day, whatever, right? And I kind of thought, yeah, that's basically fine. I want more detail than that, but something is better than nothing. So I tried that out, and that's not accurate. Something that logs what you did is I guess better than not logging it at all, but at the same time, it doesn't give me enough information to repeat what worked, and that's not good, because I'm very frustrated when I try to put things together. Like, let's say yesterday was a great day and I've just had such a good time practicing and everything was working out. I must have hit just the right timing and order. And then, but I didn't write that down because I was just kind of warming up. Okay, well then today, I can't do that again unless I can remember every detail of it. Like, how many minutes did you rest between using I call it the hootin' out. I'm not going to be able to forget or remember the right name. But the embouchure, so, when I use the embouchure, did I go right to the mouthpiece? Did I do something in between? Did I do any breathing? What things am I worried about, right? All that stuff really matters for repeatability. And this is tip number one if you're starting from scratch, or if you're, in other words, if you're finally really like going to practice seriously every day, you love the trumpet and you want to study it really seriously, then you have to have consistent daily practice that is actually repeatable. In other words, you have to know what you're doing and what you shouldn't do also, right? So that's the number one thing, is like you can't just kind of play every day. That's not enough. If you're very talented, you can, but then you really don't need help. You're going to just play anyway, right? And that's good. But a lot of us, like me, I'm not talented at all. I have to work really, really, really hard to just be able to do basic, simple things, which you're about to see, because right now it's a struggle. Like I said, I reset my entire setup. I have different teeth. I have a different placement of the aperture. I have different things that I'm working on. I basically lost my high range and my ability to even make a sound come out, right? So I really did start over. And I thought, okay, I'll try some of these other things to really simulate what is it really like to try these things that I recommend. Yeah, you really need to do a detailed journal with timings. At least I do, right? So, and in the spirit of not everything works for everybody, maybe you get away with it. Maybe you don't have to. I'm just turning the page. I am, in fact, going to fill out the journal page, the normal big journal page that I always fill out every day now. But it was nice, and I still will release the smaller version. I think if you do it right, it's still worth it. But anyway, I don't want to run out of time. I only have maybe about an hour today, so I'm going to start warming up. Again, if there are questions, I put the chat back. If there are questions, please let me know, and I would be happy to hear them. But for now, we're going to start with, I've got my mirror, I've got my timer. I'm going to put it on. And I'm going to try to set this up. Hopefully you can kind of see what's going on. I'm going to try to set this up right in the middle, and I'm going to pull, and I'm just getting the placement of this, and then I'm going to turn it around, and I'm going to try to get the placement of the aperture first, and then I'm going to let that pull me into the rim. I'm using the 3C rim, which is a little bit bigger than what I normally play. I find it really difficult to use the smaller rims and get any success. Maybe I should try that while you're here. Yeah, I do have... Which one is the 7? I believe this is the 7. I guess... Yeah, that feels smaller. Okay. So maybe we'll switch it out. But anyway, let's start with... I'm just feeling how the muscles need to work together. And before I forget, turn it around. Get that same structure, but now we have an aperture. Okay, so we got something to happen there. And that only took a minute. So write down a minute. And I try to take this really slow at the beginning now. So what is this thing doing? Well, watch all Tom Hooton's videos. Get one of these, watch all his videos. I'm only about a third of the way through the videos in terms of what I can understand and do. But so far, what I've been using it for is I'm setting up this aperture. I want this to be centered more, right? I want to use more of my facial muscles, and I want my tongue position to really be the main thing that controls the pitch, the up and down, the lip, so flexibility, intonation, everything. And I want my lips to be a little more rolled in than normal, but without restricting the air more, which has been really hard for me to find that place, and that's why I have trouble with just getting notes to start sometimes. Sometimes I have a real shaky tone because I'm working off of 30 years almost worth of some habits, right? And now I'm trying to change those. Why am I trying to change it? Well, because I believe in what Tom says about his setting up the embouchure, and I want to try to do that. Since I'm also one of the only people who changes their teeth, I want to see how changing the teeth would maybe allow for me to do the things that he's talking about better or worse given what they are, right? In other words, maybe I couldn't do that before, and as I alter my dentition, I can more. And I'd like to be able to at least comment on that if it is even relevant. And again, it's just going to be one person's experience, but maybe that's worth something to someone. All right, so that was another 2 minutes almost of rest. And I write down the rest too because that is possibly the most important part. I often rush through and I get tired fast, and that is immature practicing. So, okay, we'll use just the front end now, just the normal side. See there, I'm trying to make sure my jaw doesn't open up as I go down. Now, for some people that works really well, but if I'm trying this new setup, it completely destroys it. It basically pulls everything apart, and then you can't get it back together because the rim is stopping it, right? So anyway, a little bit of that. That was another almost 2 minutes. I probably didn't play that whole time, but we'll put down 2 again, hooting out. And since I don't have a lot of time, I'm going to move on to the up sound. This is StomV up sound, another device. Oh, I didn't try the 7 rim. Maybe we'll go back to it. Well, we do need to go back to it because it brings me to my second point. I should have written these down. I'm going to write them down with you. So the first one is consistent daily practice, right? That's number one. Because if I don't do that, I don't know what's working, what's not. I also don't know how to reconstruct my best days. And really what you want to do is have your best day over and over and over again every day. So a good, consistent routine is the way to do that. And I have lots of routines on this channel. So if you are hearing me say this and you're like, well, I do the same thing every day, go check out those routines and see if what you're doing is really addressing everything that you ought to address. You really want to work on anything that you want to improve. And that might just be tone production, it might be response, it might be flexibility, high range, it might be your scales, it might be your articulation, it could be anything. Most people's routines are too short and insufficient to really work on the breadth of all the things that they want to improve, they say they want to improve, right? If you're also just doing a band warm-up, the band warm-up is for the band, it's not for you. It's for you to feel a little warmed up and not hurt yourself. But anyway, so that's consistent practice. Number 2 is, well, I don't know how to say it because one of my students that I work with a lot, he doesn't understand me when I say this word, but I'm going to say it and then I'll try to explain it. Build it. So in other words, I have to find a way to get from whatever I'm working on. So just now I was working on my embouchure, but that's not trumpet playing though, right? I'm not playing the trumpets. So I need to find a way to bridge the gap. Is if I just go and try to play the trumpet, I have to like memorize everything I just did. If I'm going to use gadgets, then I need a purpose and a way to get from one gadget to the next where they're adding up and maybe even multiplying as I get closer to actual trumpet playing, with the goal that I will have positioned things differently by the time I get there, and I should be able to play better, question mark, or different and then make it better is a good rule. So I'm going to say build it, right? Build from one, I'll say exercise, right, to the next. Now that doesn't have to be uniformly true, but for instance, if I'm doing the Nicholasville warm-up, I'm going to do long tones, and then I'm going to do slow flexibility, and then I'm going to do faster flexibility, and then I'm going to do a broader range of flexibility, and then I'm finally going to do high range. That adds up really nicely, one thing to the next thing to the next thing. In this case, we took 3 minutes off, which is a nice rest. I feel pretty good about that. And we're going to do this. I'm going to change the rim on it. Oh, almost couldn't do that. I don't know why it's internally threaded. I would just like a regular rim, please. But this is a smaller rim, and then I'm going to preset up. This is the StomV up sound with the filter that comes with it. And I'm just going to have that nearby. And when I feel good about this, I'm going to go to that and see if I can buzz with a little resistance, okay? Let's see. So I hope that's not too loud on the thing. That was 2.5, but I've decided not to write down anything but whole numbers anymore. Up sound. Sorry, it's hard to write and talk about two different things. So okay, I've done a little bit of that, and that's that's the right mouthpiece for that. So so we're trying to transition one thing into the next. Now, the normal trumpet has resistance, and so the Stammv up sound is giving me that resistance, but it's also taking away all the slots. So I don't really need to do that again necessarily. But if I'm having trouble, if I'm doing something really well on one device, and then I'm transitioning to the next step, and it's just not happening, then I need to work on that transition, right? So again, building from one exercise to the next, building on the sort of experience of one thing and trying to build it into the next thing, that's really important. You're also going to want to have, this is part of the first step, like the consistent daily practice, but I'll write it, I guess we can write it as a third step. We want a good journal, right? It's really part of one, but we got to write it down somewhere. But the reason I'm mentioning it now, journal, is we also want to have goals. Not just big goals like I want to sound good or I want to get to this high note, but more like, those are good goals, don't get me wrong, but more like what things do I need to remember to do that help me play the trumpet best, right? So in other words, for me right now, I'm working on, I want the turnaround to be instantaneous, right? That way my support is engaged. I don't always do that when I'm focused on my embouchure, so make sure I do that. I also want not to preset the mouthpiece entirely. I was trying to do that. Some methods tell you you need to preset and then breathe through your nose and blow. And there's a lot of value there, but ultimately I still get a better result right now from breathing through my corners and presetting like 95% and then letting the air kind of set up that last 5% as I turn around the air. So I'm making sure I do that. In fact, we're going to write these down. Turn around. 90, we'll say 96% preset, meaning don't fully preset. What else? I want anchor tongue position. Because that helps me, and don't move my jaw, right? Keep fixed jaw, we'll say. Now, these are by no means prescriptions for you. These are prescriptions for me right now because I'm just being a good journaler. I'm writing down, hey, don't forget these things, so that every time I look down, I'm going to see turnaround, 96% preset, anchor tongue position, and fixed jaw. And I might have other goals, but these are things that are sort of like these might be something that you learn in a lesson. Oh, well, yeah, turnaround's really important. Oh, okay, great. And you mark that down in your trumpet journal during your lesson, and then all week you're looking at that and going, okay, I got to make sure my turnaround's good every single time, whether I'm playing an excerpt or an etude or just my long tones or scales. I want to be thinking about that constantly, right? Constantly reminding myself. Another good way to do it is with extremely bright sticky notes that you put on your music. You can put it right at the top. You can write it in highlighter. There's a lot of ways to remember the important things that are like really major changes in your, like that help you do everything, right? So this is really the reason to journal. Consistent daily practice you have to do. You could just do exactly the same very good routine every day from memory, and it would probably work out. But journaling helps you be consistent, but it also helps you do other things. So that's number 3. Okay, that's been 4 minutes. Now, we were trying to get to long tones of some sort. Let's see what I did yesterday. Because I journal, I can see. Oh, that's not yesterday. Oh, yesterday's on the other side of this. Okay. I did lead pipe buzzing. So let's do that next. So like I said, I don't think I need the resistance I'm going to find on the lead pipe. We're going to do C trumpet vented valve. No, yeah. We'll do C trumpet vented valve lead pipe. And that's just taking out the first valve, putting it back in on the top, right, so that it's not in on the bottom slide. You can see that there. A little bit better that angle, right? So I can keep it in with my hand. And it's going to go through that valve, and it's going to give us approximately a G. And so this is going to help me. I've talked another minute now. Sorry about that. This is going to help. So I'm going to still set up my embouchure in the mirror, but you can see it's making me hunch over because it's not really in the right place. So I'm going to set it up, and then I'm going to get away from it. So, and that right now, it might be a good time for me to go, because this is the part I'm going to mess up. I got it to work fine on the up sound, but I just want to make sure I remember that muscular setup. Okay, that's pretty good. Turn off the vocal mic so that I don't blow you out of the water when I actually do the real exercise. So that was only 2 minutes, but it was a pretty intense 2 minutes. Oops, that's right, that's yesterday. So that's 2, and that's C, lead pipe buzzing. I abbreviate that LPB, 1. So it's a pretty intense, and I was checking. I always want to check to make sure I'm not opening my jaw, but that instead I'm rolling my lips and I'm changing my tongue position. That's the hard thing for me to get used to. I've always used my jaw a little bit, and I've always resisted doing it, but I haven't ever been able to cure myself of it. Again, it's not a bad way to play. I just want more consistency with my tone color than that allows. So it also doesn't really fit my teeth. How do I put it? I was doing my jaw. I was moving my jaw to change notes because of my teeth, but as I improve them, I can improve the way that I play, but that's not a habit yet. So you really have to, some people play fixed jaw because their dentition sets them up to do that. And so for them, this is already natural. For me, I spent my whole life as a floating jaw player, and now I'm finally sort of blocking out my jaw a little bit better to be fixed jaw, because I think ultimately it will give me more longevity and more control. That doesn't mean that it will. I don't know. But it's nothing for you to worry about. But I'm just trying to describe, like, building a habit from scratch, especially when you have an old habit that is in the way of it, is really frustrating. And so how do you deal with that, right? That's something that you will have to deal with if you're, you know, this video is mostly like for maybe somebody who's in high school right now who's getting really serious about trumpet and deciding to do it for a career maybe, or somebody who just got to college. They're going to be a freshman in the fall, and they're not really, they want to be successful, but they're not really sure what that's made out of, right? And they're willing to do whatever you say, you know, whatever their teachers tell them. But what the problem with that is your teachers are all going to tell you different things. Every teacher wants you to practice hardest for their class. And you have to know how to be successful on the trumpet so that it doesn't take you so much effort to practice for all the ensembles you want to be in, and you also have time to do your homework. So there's a lot of different people who maybe could benefit from this type of video. And so anyway, that's been 2 minutes. We did 2 minutes of lead pipe buzzing. So that's sufficient if we're going to do more of it. We don't want to lose our sort of streak here, right? So same thing again. Set my armature up. Good. Oh, sorry. Okay, so not quite 2 more minutes. Now you might notice it sounds a little shaky, and you're like, Gabriel, you know, that doesn't sound like very good. Well, yeah, that's right. It doesn't sound good. Let's see, we'll put that down again, 2 minutes. Lead pipe buzzing. And that's okay at first, right? Eventually, we need it to sound good. If I don't ever sound good, it's going to be really depressing. But you know, this is a really important part, and I'll write down as number 4. Be willing to what do we want to say? Sound bad to achieve radical things. Right? So in other words, I am trying to change something here. Of course it's not going to go well at first. But I don't want to wait, I don't want to keep doing the thing that seems to work a little bit better because it seems to work a little better. I want to make the change today. Now, I'm going to have to live with a percentage of that. I'm not going to just be able to put my mouthpiece in a new place. And I mean, eventually, if I have the patience for that, maybe that can work. And some things are different than others. If I am moving my mouthpiece, then just moving it and sounding bad for 2 weeks is okay. If it works, it works, right? In other words, if I'm just unfamiliar, but I know that eventually I'm going to get back to my normal playing, especially if all I'm changing is the position of the mouthpiece, then hey, you know, that probably will be fine. If on the other hand I'm changing multiple things, then I'm going to have to settle for a percentage of success on some of them. So in other words, if I'm trying to get my high range, you know, somebody told me that if I have really good corners, I can get double high C. And maybe already I can play up to a high G. Okay, so that's great, but I'm not going to play double high C tomorrow because I have that new knowledge. I might be able to play a little bit easier high G, or even more frustrating for most people, I can't even play my old range with this new method. And that's very common. Of course you can't do what you used to be able to do a new way that you've never done it before. Now, in some cases, things just radically improve instantly, and those are things that you usually write down that you want to do all the time, like your turnaround, like for me, for like my 96% preset, right? If I don't do those things, I always sound worse. If I do those things, I always sound better instantly. So A lot of stuff works that way. But a lot of stuff is an incremental change that you have to figure out with your body. So if somebody tells you this is what you want to do, that's great. Now you have knowledge, but your body doesn't have that knowledge. You have to learn how to do that. And you want to be results oriented about that. Is this actually easier? If it's not, can I do the thing more? Can I, like, if I think it's my corners, can I make them even harder? Well, if that doesn't work, I'm going the wrong direction. I'm not doing the right thing. So you want to always consider what's supposed to be happening, and you're trying to find your way to it. So if you have some information that can actually be misleading sometimes, from all these videos, for instance, right? If I tell you to do something and it doesn't work for you, and if you do it for a week and it doesn't work, you're not doing it, or I was wrong, right? Equally probable things. So it's your job as a trumpet player to try to find your way to the things on your path, right? That you want to be good at. So anyway, now I'm just talking. Oh, my dad's on. Hi. Habriel is close. Anyway, it's good to see somebody on again. I haven't done these in a long time, so nobody's on usually. But anyway, Dad, since you're on, we are talking about basically if you. So I took the summer and I reset everything so that I have none of the habits really. I have all the knowledge and none of the habits. And so I wanted to find out, what does it take if you were just starting off? Is what we actually tell people really what they should do, basically. And so far, here's what we've got. Consistent daily practice. Guess what? That one works. Build from one exercise to the next. That helps you make sure that all of whatever you're doing for a routine is adding up to your best playing. Of course, that works. Good journaling helps you be consistent, but it also gives you targets, things that you don't want to forget over time that would be easy to forget. I have pages and pages I have a page right here called Things to Keep in Mind. And it says on there, ready embouchure, perfect turnaround, anchor tongue position, even pressure. I mean, a lot of stuff that you're like, oh, of course, that's good stuff. Like, why do you have to write that down? Well, because you'd be surprised. You practice the same kind of stuff for 3, 4, 5 weeks, and then stuff stops working, and you're like, huh, man, I must be overplaying or something. And it's just because you forgot one of these important things. And then be willing to sound bad to achieve radical things is the one we just mentioned. So we'll get into some more specifics as we go on. I corrected my name. Thanks, Dad. I mean, the trumpet player from the Bible, it could have been, H could have been a G in Aramaic or Hebrew or something. I don't know. I guess that's a Indiana Jones reference accidentally. Jehovah starts with an I in the, I don't remember. Anyway, great movies. Okay, so 6 minutes. Good long rest, because now we're going to do a little bit of lead pipe buzzing on, oops, that's the wrong B-flat trumpet, on the B-flat trumpet. And then we're going to do our slow slurs, our violin, right? And I'm stealing all this from previous days of journaling that I know work. In fact, let's look at the last one that worked really well. And we went from C to B-flat, and then we did page 44 of the Arban's book. So, hey, not bad. Let's see if we can find some other pages. See, the problem is a lot of my best days in the last couple of weeks, I did the mini journal, so don't have the details, and that means we're just guessing. And that's why the journal is number 3. Okay. Okay, so we did some slightly better sounding trumpet playing. Need to empty some spit out of this third valve, I bet. Oh yeah. So there we go. Now, I'm just going to kind of work through the rest of this warm-up little by little. Did I shut this off? I did not. That was 2 minutes. 2. That was B flat, LPB 2. And you might notice that I'm doing some lip slurs in this lead pipe exercise, and that's because I'm trying to build in from one thing to the next. And the next thing I want to do is slow lip slurs. I'm not going to do page 44, but I am going to sort of work my way up and get to some high range stuff. And I just need to be consistent, and I need to make sure that I play for the right amount of time, right? That's a different way to be consistent. And that I rest enough. That's another third way to be consistent. So the same things with the right amount of rest over a similar amount of time. And you can mess with those things little by little to make them more efficient. But once you find your stride, I did the same warm-up that, in fact, my dad taught me for about 20 years, but particularly what was effective for me was when I did it every morning at 6:30 a.m. for exactly a half an hour. And it took a half an hour to do it, and I warmed up well, and then I went to breakfast. This was at a boarding high school, so at Interlochen. This shirt is not Interlochen approved because it has a pattern. But at Interlochen, I would go to the gym and not work out, but do my warm-up, and which is the Nicholasville warm-up, I believe, or the Kentucky. Well, they're both based on the same thing. And that took me a half an hour. Then I went to breakfast and ate some cereal, drank some coffee. Then I walked back across campus and played 2 hours of orchestra. And then I would actually practice stuff at night, at the end of the day, after brass quintet at 5. So somewhere between 6, 7, 8 o'clock before bedtime. That's when I actually could practice things. And that worked out great. I was warmed up all day. I had good fundamentals. I could play the whole range of the trumpet that time I had the ability to play, which was really only up to about high E or F. But I sounded good, and I played every trumpet every day, and it was great. So that consistency of the time of day and the amount of time and the rest versus not resting, that really, really worked. It was very important for me, and I've learned that since this reset, I've learned that I used to be able to be really inconsistent and sort of play throughout the day and do different things because I already had my habits kind of set up. And I was teaching lessons all the time, so I'm always kind of reinvesting in my fundamentals. But when you change that and when you don't have that, that consistency of time becomes really, really important. So how long should that be? Well, for a warm-up, I would say between 30 minutes and an hour. And that's so that you have time to space things out, so that you're always feeling kind of fresh and you're also mentally not exhausted. But if you go too long between two things you're trying to pair together, you forget what one feels like, and now you're going to have to do it differently or just do it again. And so you have to think about the timing. It doesn't mean always rest more. Sometimes it means put these two things closer together and then rest, right? And finding that and then being really a stickler for doing it every single day the same way. That's important. So I would say between half an hour and an hour. And then additional practice, well, it depends, right? If that takes you an hour and then you play some rehearsals during the day, you might not have a lot of chops left at the end of the day to, play through all your music. So what do you do then? Well, you do other things. Let's say you only have chops enough to play for another half an hour, right? Okay, well, great. Then you're going to sing. You're going to do the fingerings. You're going to work out the rhythms. You're going to do everything you can so that the very first time you put your horn up, the right thing comes out of it, and you only have to play it 1, maybe 2 times, right, for consistency. You can do that every day, and you'll get really good at sight reading. You'll get really good at ear training. You'll get really good at all the fingerings, all the patterns of fingerings, right? Because you're practicing mentally and orally, and then you're not beating up your lip too much. And then when you feel like you have the endurance and stamina to be able to play 5, 6, 7 hours a day, which some people do have, well, then you can just play then, and you will have done all the work ahead of time, so it'll be a lot easier for you to do that, right? Okay. Oh, my dad is leaving again, but it was nice to see you. and say hi to Paul for me and his daughter. All right. So that was only 2 minutes, the last thing, and this has been 5 minutes now. So I think now we're going to play violin slurs, and I can do the first one and check the valve. So that's what we're going to do. Tie these things together. Put that 5-minute rest down. Sorry, I didn't turn off this mic. Well, anyway, I can talk to you now and say, yeah, we want to be checking to make sure. Okay, you want to use that to be consistent. You can't really use the vented valve on anything but the G. I sort of tried to use it on the low C, but you can't use it on the high C at all. It doesn't help. So if you're going to do that, go ahead. Anyway, here are the rest of at least a few more violins. So I got a few there where my response wasn't happening. And I told you this would happen, right? So that means I'm set up differently in a way that's not working. And I need to find where I just was. So I'm just going to go right back to the lead pipe, right? Find that, and then I'll put it back together and we'll fix it. Do a little rest in between each one as well. That went way better, right? And I'm just trying not to force anything. When I notice a little bit of a quiver, I try to just focus on the air and relax the chops a little bit, but sometimes I need to beef them up a little bit. They're shaking because they're in between being totally relaxed and too overwrought. And that's my sensation that tells me that. It's not like I read it in a book or, I had to figure that out. And now I kind of know what it's made of, and I can intuit which way to go. So anyway, and that's what I was sort of saying before. We all have to let our bodies teach us how to do this stuff, whatever it may be. All right, we'll do one more. So I was also noticing a little bit that oops, that's probably wrong. Oh, maybe it's right. My low range was kind of like hitting a little bit too much, so that I just bend into it until it clicks in, and it helps you find the actual right positioning for all that. But anyway, that was 4 minutes of mostly violin. And so we're just going to do a short rest for the sake of the video. I don't want to get cut off. I got to go to the grocery store in a little bit. And but I did want to do just one video here and make sure I was being consistent. Again, if you're just now joining us or if you skipped midway through, I am putting chapters on all the warm-ups. I'm also writing out the warm-ups. I resisted that for many years because I want people to listen and then do the exercises. But what I have learned is that when you're trying to teach people a good exercise to do, you need them to do it right away. And then you can ask them to do it off book, so to speak. Doing it the opposite way just means that people who don't have really good ears yet just don't do the exercise, period, forever. So I still have students who are in their maybe second, third, and fourth years of college who aren't doing the warm-ups properly because they never really started off with good enough ears to transcribe them, and maybe they just were lazy and they didn't bother, right? Or they thought their warm-ups were better, but a lot of those same people don't improve as quickly as people who are doing everything every day. And sometimes it's just easy to get it wrong in your head and think it's right, and so it's nice if it's written down. So I'm kind of caving to that, but I still recommend doing the warm-ups by ear, but maybe you look at it, and I'm kind of coming around where it's like maybe giving people the warm-ups so that they can see what it looks like and do it that way once or twice, and then asking them, okay, just do that with different valves down. That might be a good way to get them to play more by ear instead of by note by note reading the page, right? So we'll see if that's true, but I am writing them out. I have long tones done and I have endurance exercise almost done, and so now I need to, as I'm cataloging what's in each warm-up, I'm going back and putting a finale file together. And they'll look quite bad for a while, but as I learn to get better at finale, maybe they'll look better, and then I'll finally put a book together, and it'll have a checklist for each warm-up, and then the warm-up itself, and that way, once you know it, you can just use the checklist, or even better, do a proper journal. Okay, let's do, that was violin, B flat. We're going to do prelude to the high range, and then we're going to do high range, and then I'm going to be done for now. But so the last point that I have to make about restarting, if you're feeling like you're ready to start for the first time, the fifth one, which is kind of like the fourth one, is basically be brave. In other words, I need to do everything every day that I want to improve on. Some things might be able to be not daily, but maybe weekly or something. But if it's really important, like my high range is to me, if I really want to improve, I just got an email from a student today. I'm trying to improve my high range. I'm having trouble being consistent about it. Yeah, just do it every day. And you want to work right below the barrier of what you can do. So in other words, when you start to change the way that you do something into some other version, and then you get like one or two more notes out, that new way is the emergency mode way. You don't want to do it that way. You want to do it the way that worked up till there and then start to change, right? So work right on the barrier between the things that are all the same. Everything is working great down here, and then up here it all like gets too, your lip gets flattened out like sheet metal. You use too much pressure, whatever it is. Now, it's okay to use pressure. It's okay to have maybe a little bit of some of that stuff. But if it's not working the same way, it's because you're kind of getting into the zone where you don't know how to do it yet. And the answer is right before that. It's what you were doing, most likely. I can't vouch for everybody, but most likely it was the thing that's right below the thing that you can't do consistently, right? So for me, that's like C and C sharp in the staff, lip trills all the way up to the top of the staff. That's where I start to transition into bad habits and use too much pressure and smile and do whatever else, right? And especially now that I have an inconsistent placement of my aperture, because like I said, I reset everything, right? I'm finding out firsthand, is it really true? If you learn how to do these lip trills, does that really translate into the high range? And I'm here to tell you it does. It is inconsistent because any little thing that goes wrong is lights out, not going to work. So let's try to do it together. Oh, great, Joss is on, yeah. I don't know which thing I said that you liked, but I'm glad that I said it. Okay, maybe it was be brave. And the bravery is to challenge yourself to do even those things that are uncomfortable, right? That's what I mean by be brave. Because you need to do them. You're not going to improve on them if you don't. It just won't happen. And don't wait to ask somebody. Just start trying, right? If you're doing it the wrong way, it'll either hurt or it won't work, and that's fine. And you can still ask somebody later, but you just need to get started on it. I used to do a lot of things later because I wanted to ask a professional, like, well, how do you play high? What is it made of? And I'm a real intellectual kind of set up person, so I wanted to make sure I was consistent and did it the right way first. I didn't want to spend any time. Yeah, that's baloney. Just start doing it. And your trying to do it is actually giving you the vocabulary to be able to understand what somebody else is going to tell you about how to do it, right? So the old saying used to be, for my dad, who just was on, Vince, how do you play high notes? And he'd say, well, have you played high notes? Have you tried to play? How long have you tried to do it? I go, well, I can't do it, so never. I play up to like A in the top of the staff, and that's it. And I was, okay, well, great. Well, why don't you try for like 50 hours, and then we'll talk about it. And if you think about what that would take for something that's hard for you to do, that you can't do for even 10 minutes a day, that's going to take you a year to build up that vocabulary of experience, bodily experience, right? Then you come back to have a lesson with that person, and they say, okay, I see what you're doing. Let me try it this way. And you go, oh, of course, right? So be brave and just go for it. All right, we'll do some I call these near-high lip trills. We're going to work our way up to the top of the staff, then we're going to do the high range exercise, and then I'm going to say sayonara. That was 7 minutes. And look at that, look. We got right on the line where high range starts, that means our warm-up was well timed. All right, so we worked our way up there. Now we're at the beginning of the high range exercise. And you can hear there's a little stiffness where I'm still not really ready, but I know kind of the things I need to deal with. I've been thinking about, Josh, you're going to love this, and don't obsess about it because you know you're going to want to, but I've been thinking about my, whether or not I pull my lips up and down as I change ranges. So in other words, you put your mouthpiece on there, right, and it gets stuck to the spot you can sort of sneak some lip out sometimes, but you get it stuck. And a lot of people drag their embouchure either left or right or up or down. And I thought about that and I went, gosh, I don't know if I do that or not. I used to place it and drag it to the middle from whichever corner I wanted. Now I don't do that anymore, but I'm thinking I kind of drag it around when I'm trying to play in the high register. So let's find out. And the mirror is good for that. I don't know if I'll be able to actually see in the mirror without, like, maybe if I just squat. But it's hard to see where it's placed. It's a bad placement. Maybe I'll put it back where it was. Yeah, it's pretty good. Oh yeah, that's a good spot. All right. Oh, shoot. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But you saw, okay, so what did I notice when I played? And you can notice this probably better on the recording. I pushed my jaw forward, bent my head down, and that's resisting that got me a bad result. Doing it on purpose got me a slightly better result as I noticed I was doing it. So I should say letting it happen got me a slightly better result. What if I do it on purpose? I will not blow your ears open this time. Not necessarily better. And you can hear me like, the notes are there, but they're not there right. Not like my old videos where I had my other embouchure. And that is an imbalance in the corners, but it's also like I'm placing it in a place that doesn't have any architecture under it helping me, that I was really leaning on, but that also really tears me up when I overuse it. So that's the purpose of what I'm doing. All right, we'll do one more. And this time I'm going to take, so if I'm jutting my jaw forward, right, to get the high notes to respond better, what if I just bring my horn angle down instead and try to keep this anchor point? I just read even pressure, right? So if I do something weird, maybe I'm compensating for, I'm wanting to add uneven pressure, and then I'm changing the angle. So let's see if we can keep even pressure, but just keep the horn angle lower. That one was going to work. It's just that I tore up my lip too much on the other things, right? And I'm not resting enough. So that's it. That's all I'm going to do. I know that's a terrible place to end with an almost not, a non-high note because I didn't get it to come out. But hey, I have to know how to sound bad in order to do radical things. And what I just did didn't hurt at all. I almost got the notes out. And so what would I do? I would go back. The high G kind of came out. I didn't really play a high F because there's no lip trill version of the high F, but maybe if I do more of the scale, right? I'll do more of that and just really try to figure out what's going on by being consistent about it. That's the part that's right under the part that I can't do, right? Or that I can kind of force out, I should say, right? That's the part. Now, for you, it might be if you can't play up to high C, okay, it's probably those near high trills. It's C to E where we start to transition into something that we shouldn't do. That's why a lot of people have G on top of the staff, no problem. A on top of the staff, who knows? And that's because that's they transition into more pressure and tension than they should have as they get close to the top of the staff. So, but obviously, you can play consistently throughout the range. You just have to work on it every day. And so if we can be sort of complete, yeah, it did want to go even higher, right? Like it's there, it's just not coordinated yet. And this is what you have to be patient about. You have to be willing to sound bad to achieve radical things. So what are the things that help somebody who's really serious actually do well if they've never, maybe this is their first time really being serious about it, right? They've finally chosen what they want to do and it's trumpet, and now they're ready to do it. Consistent daily practice. You got to do a daily routine every single day. You cannot skip any day. You can't skip holidays. You can't skip weekends. You can't skip even if you have a long day, right? At least do some kind of warm up that has all the parts of the things that you want to work on, right? That's a routine. And you can look on this channel to find other routines. Like I said, I'm putting all the chapters in so you can just skip to the parts that you need and not listen to me talk too much. Number two, build from one exercise to the next. So in other words, make sure that they all add up to something that is great. Take good notes. Do a good journal. Make sure that you're writing down the times that the amount of time you're playing and what you're doing and why you're doing it, and the amount of time you're resting. And you can use the time you're resting to plan the next thing you want to do and why you're going to do it and what you're trying to accomplish and how you're going to tie those things together from one exercise to the next, right? So make sure you rest. And if you want, this is the talking timer. It's a great little cheapy timer. It's lasted me a long time, and I have several of them, and eventually they do go bad, but this one is at least 10 years old. I still have my original one from DePaul, which is some more years than that. Okay, number 3 is good journal. I think I did just say that. Yes, good journaling, right? Really consistent. And you can put in your journal the things that you want to, that help you do everything. So for me, turnaround, the amount of preset. Maybe for you, it's going, just make sure you play with a good sound. If that's hard, if you forget to think about sound a lot, then just going for a big sound solves a lot of problems. For a lot of people, it's use more air. I don't like that one very much because I'm trying to use less air to do more, but use more air works for a lot of people, so there's no reason not to use it if it's working for you. And these things change over time, but they also come back around. So having a good list of things that you should remember to do every attempt of everything you do, that's also what a journal is for. Number 4 is be willing to sound bad to achieve radical things. We've talked a lot about that because I do a lot of my practice is sounding bad. My poor girlfriend who lives with me now has heard me do weird and wild stuff for over a month every day. And I'm sure from day to day, she's like, what is he doing in there? I've never heard that before. And it's all just problem solving and trying to, be patient with myself to try to figure it out in the way that I want to, and to let my body have time to figure out how to do it while I maintain my oral sort of goals up here, what I want to hear, right? And then finally, number 5, possibly the most important, be brave. Do things that you are afraid to do, because those are the things that you need to practice, right? If you know the Haydn trumpet concerto really well and you want a concerto competition with it and you play it every day because it makes you feel good, that's great, as long as you only ever need to play the Haydn. But if you want to play other things, and you probably do, you're just a little afraid to do it, well, then you're going to need to work on those things. And so it's probably a good idea for you to put the Haydn away for a little while and get out the other stuff that you're not very good at yet. And don't wait for a professional, unless if it hurts you to do, then go talk to somebody, right? But otherwise, just try to figure it out. You need to build up a vocabulary of experience of trying to do something, even if it's not the best way. That way, when somebody tells you what is the best way in their opinion, then you're ready to receive that information, and your body can actually do something with that. The worst thing you can do is find out the right answer first, and then go try to tell your body to do that, and it doesn't work, and you say, oh, I guess that was bad information. Well, no, it's just you don't notice, you don't know that you have the coordination to do exactly that, even though it feels like you are. And that applies to most of the weird stuff that we want to try to do, like the super extreme high register or really fast color changes or whatever. So anyway, thanks for joining me, to my dad and Josh and whoever else might have been here in between. Thank you for watching this later. Please go check out the warm-ups as they get cataloged with all the parts so that you can skip to your favorites. I'm still working on some of my other projects, if you remember from past videos. And as we get back into the school year in about a month, I will be doing more regular uploading again, because I will have a routine that will help me. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you next time.